An extremely odd week 9 is in the books. We're back after a brief hiatus. It's time for another episode of the You Like That Feels Great Baby podcast. First of all, we're sorry we missed you guys last week. Joey was on the IR with an upper body injury. I thought about going solo, but after that devastating Vikings loss that I attended, I just didn't have it in me. But we're back this week. Joey, how you feeling?
Feel pretty good. Feel pretty good back,
Day-to-day or probable?
Active. Yeah, active game
Active,
day. We're
right.
here. Probable.
Upgraded from questionable to active.
Ask in a week. I don't know how to feel after your team doesn't play. But who knows? Sunday could go real bad and I'll just want
to. He'll just shut it down at that point. IR at least 4 weeks. Let's go over what we missed since we've been gone. We'll start with the Vikings. Utter disaster against the Rams, but a solid bounce-back win on Sunday Night Football against the Colts, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Number one story of the last couple weeks, Christian Darrisaw out for the year. He just had surgery today to repair a torn ACL and MCL, so looks like he probably will be back to start the year next year, but that's a massive loss. They tried to cover it up by trading for Cam Robinson from Jacksonville. It was okay, probably a C+ last night in his debut for the team, but he only got one practice under his belt, so hopefully he can improve and at least give us something on the left side of the line. But Vikings defense last night, after getting torched by Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, they gave up 3 points on Sunday Night Football, made Joe Flacco look absolutely horrible. Darnold with his 2 worst passes of the year, like just egregiously awful picks. But other than those 2 picks, he was basically perfect. He went 28 of 33 with 3 touchdowns. So 2 bad throws, freaking 28 great ones. So Darnold pretty good. Defense really, really good. Your thoughts on the Vikings after their loss in Los Angeles and their win on Sunday Night Football last night?
I didn't think the loss against the Rams was – I mean, the Rams might turn out to be pretty good. I didn't think it was that terrible. The biggest thing that came out of that was the injury to Darrisaw. But, yeah, back on track last night. And, yeah, defense especially only giving up 3 points. I think the Colts with Flacco are a whole lot more intimidating than them with Richardson and held them to 3 points. But, yeah, I mean – and then, again, like we've been saying forever, their schedule gets very manageable. Rest of the season.
At Jacksonville, at Tennessee, at Chicago, and then home Arizona, home Atlanta, home Chicago, then at Seattle. That's 7 games in a row that the Vikings probably will be favored in either 6 or 7 of them.
Maybe the Arizona one might be. Is that in Arizona or home?
It's in Minnesota. The thing is I think the 3 best teams we face in that stretch, we face them at home. So,
yeah,
pretty good stretch coming up here. And to be 6-2 through the first 8, I mean, you asked me before the season, I would have said 3-5 would be okay through that stretch. To be 6-2, let's not get greedy here. That's a pretty damn great start to the season. And I put almost all of it on Kevin O'Connell. Like, he has been phenomenal. I watched that game yesterday, 1 penalty for 10 yards for the Vikings. And, that's just the mark of an incredibly well-coached team. He's been either the best or second best coach in the NFL to this point this season. So good on you, Kevin O'Connell. Quick Niners take. They were on a bye last week, but prior to that, a mid-win by a mid-team over another mid-team on Sunday Night Football. That Dallas game, man, it just – what was that fourth quarter effort? Like, that looked like the old Niners for 3 quarters and then just a complete collapse, reminiscent of the Rams game earlier in the season. Luckily, they pulled it out. Supposedly, McCaffrey coming back this week. Your thoughts of that Sunday night game 2 weeks ago and then how things are looking coming out of the bye?
Yeah, win's a win, but, you're watching that game and you're just like, oh, boy. The first half, okay. Not – I don't think up to their standard. Third quarter was great. Like, okay, fourth quarter, then it's like they're about to do it again.
Very Ravens-esque.
I don't know. I think they just were like, get to the bye, 4-4, and just like start over their season. And yeah, being off this week, I think it came at a good time. Obviously, the news today, McCaffrey back at practice. I'm still not like super confident he plays and or doesn't get hurt again. And I don't know. It's just with that's not an injury that goes away. But silver lining, the backups, Mason, if he's healthy, and Garendo, I thought had his best game as a Niner Sunday night. And but yeah, the other big news is Dre Greenlaw's getting closer. That I think is even bigger than McCaffrey.
That sounds like not this week, but the following week he'll be back. Is what I heard.
Yeah, I'd be thrilled for week 11, whatever that would be. Not this week, but the week because that's Seattle. I think they play Seattle at home. But like I saw this thing yesterday. As train wreck of a season as this has felt, mostly not even because of the injuries, but mostly because of those two fourth quarter collapses. They're only one game out of the division behind Arizona, and the other three teams. I think Arizona's like -7 point differential. I think basically the point is all three are like clearly negative point differential. The Niners are, I think, plus 28. Like
they are the best. Obviously, they're the best roster in the division. They are the best team in the division. They just
but I mean, for a lot of it, they haven't looked it.
Yeah,
I mean, and and so I don't know. I think maybe the first half with the injuries, the weird stuff with Ayuk, obviously the incident with Pearsall, like it's just I think it was just threw everything off, and I think having a week. I remember a couple years ago, I think it was now 2-3 years ago, maybe. They think they were like 3-5 or 4-5, hit this bye this about the same time, and then went to Jacksonville after a bye. Jacksonville, I think at the time was like 6-2 or 7-2. Went there and hammered them like 34-3. I think it was. And like I'm not expecting that.
That was the Jimmy G season where they made it to the NFC Championship.
Yeah. So I was like, this feels like. I think Tampa's a lot better than what Jacksonville was, even despite the records, as we saw tonight. I mean, gave the Chiefs all they could handle, but I mean, I'm expecting a very solid effort Sunday, especially if more people are healthy. Juwan Jennings, too, back potentially.
Getting Debo and Kittle a week to rest after. I mean, they've both been great this season. They've just been getting dinged up pretty much every game. So
we'll see too at the deadline.
Trade deadline coming up tomorrow. I was just going to say that. Vikings-wise, I'm hoping we find a way to get either a corner or a guard. A pass rusher wouldn't hurt. The rumors are they've been looking at offensive guards to replace Ed Ingram or Blake Brandell on the offensive line. I mean, we were a turnstile yesterday.
I saw the play.
DeForest Buckner, man. Wow.
Well, speaking of him, I don't know if they're going to do it, but I heard the Niners are interested in bringing him back. But I'm like, at what price and why would the Colts do that?
Yeah.
But I saw that play. Was it Brandel, whatever?
Yeah.
Got just on the strip sack.
That was Bradbury, the center, who's just.
I mean, that might be the best play by a D tackle I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That was like snap immediately on your back. I was like, holy smokes.
And Garrett Bradbury, from the moment we drafted him in the first round, he has always been undersized. Like one of those guys who he gets ahead of steam in the run game. Sure. Pass pro, he's always been a disaster. And it's just he hasn't been replaced because we've signed a bunch of dudes and they've all been like worse than him. We haven't been able to find someone to replace him. We brought in this guy from the Chargers, Dan Feeney, in training camp, and supposedly he was going to beat him out, and then played a few snaps in that third preseason game, and O'Connell saw enough and was like, all right, Bradbury keeps the job. So I don't think we're going to make a change at center, but I would like to see an interior offensive lineman. We already made the move for Robinson, and then we have O'Neal, who's a great right tackle, but that middle of that line is it's a problem right now. And then corner is a problem, as we saw with the Puka Cup, explosion on Thursday Night Football. So I don't think we're going to make any significant moves. I don't think there are any significant moves to be made. The best team in football is in our division, and it's very unlikely, in my opinion, that we pass them up without winning at Detroit week 18, which is going to be really tough. So I think they'll probably make an incremental move, not something that's going to lose them any future draft capital. We only have a 1, a 5, and a 7 in next year's draft. So there's nothing really we can trade. The trade for Robinson, we traded a 2026 fourth. We're talking 2 years out because we got nothing left to trade with. So Niners wise, I mean, I really don't know how aggressive they can get. I really think they've already put all their chips on the table. I don't really think there's a trade out there to be made.
No, they do something though. I do think I've heard like Lynch say, especially being a player himself back in the day, that he does believe in what emotional lift it gives the team, seeing your team add. So he just feels obligated to do something. And whether that's been, McCaffrey, I don't think that was deadline, but they've added him. The Super Bowl year in 2019 was Emmanuel Sanders. I've heard them looking at former Niners. I've heard them looking at Kendrick Bourne just to fill a this receiver spot, but what is that going to do?
Yeah.
If anything, I do think they try and upgrade their defensive tackles. I've heard Buckner. I've heard the name is blanking on me, but I've heard the Patriots guy.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but
with Kinlaw out for the year, it's just like one of those clear areas of need. And obviously everybody would love to have a little bit of pass rush or defensive tackle help, but it'll be curious to see because you're obviously supposedly at the end of this competitive window. But if you are, why not just kind of go for it if you're going to maybe take a little bit of a step back, especially with salary cap constraints next year with Purdy. So we'll see if they just like a move for Buckner would be a push all the chips in move, whereas a move for I don't know.
I wonder if I'd have to look at his contract. Maybe is he? I thought he did sign an extension.
When did you guys draft him? So he would be what, 31, maybe 32?
He was drafted in 14.
14. So yeah, that would be 10 years ago. Yeah, that'd make him 32. Especially after watching yesterday, I mean, that is one of the best players in the NFL. He was in our backfield the entire game. He's also freaking enormous, which I feel like that could help you guys out with. Right now, you have these defensive tackles behind Kinlaw that are
filling a lot of holes.
Yeah, that would be really nice, but probably
more.
I'm
wrong. He was 2016, so he's only
30. Okay. Yeah, you would imagine it'd be a pretty hefty, at least a 2, if not multiple 2s.
Looking at his contract, he signed 2-year extension, $23 million a year.
Okay, maybe with that.
So this is his first year. Okay, never mind. So he's got 2 years after this. At his cap hit next year is 26.6. No, thank you.
I was going to say, maybe you can get him for a third or a fourth, but nobody's going to take on that kind of cash at the deadline. Very rarely happens. Even when you guys traded for McCaffrey, he didn't exactly have a large contract moving across teams. Let's cover some of the marquee games from yesterday before we get into a Week 10 preview. The Lions clearly asserted themselves as by far the number 1 team in the NFC with that win yesterday at the Packers. I think even though the Chiefs just had another skin of their teeth win on Monday Night Football, I think the Lions are clearly the best team in the NFL. I thought Green Bay was that. I mean, you can say, okay, Jacobs was banged up, Love was banged up. I thought Green Bay looked really rough in that game. They were lucky to only lose 24-14. I thought that could have been, something like 31-6 if things broke a little bit differently. Green Bay, I'm a little more down on them than I thought I would be.
Oh, it was not impressive. I know guys are hurt, but if you're playing, you're playing. And
home game at Lambeau, man, lethargic.
The crazy thing is just the Detroit Lions are walking to Lambeau Field and feel like a bully. That's wild.
Third straight year that they won in Lambeau convincingly all 3 times. Damn.
And Detroit, I like so much of their team. I love from Brad Holmes, GM. I freaking love Dan Campbell. I don't know how you can't enjoy Jared Goff's revenge story. And just the way they play football is just beautiful and mean all at the same time. But like, if they were to win a Super Bowl, I'd be a little like bummed in the sense of like I think they're the younger, better version of the Niners. Like just the way they play, except they have an offensive line that we couldn't sniff. Granted, maybe like the early night, like this run, the Niners defensive line was better when they had all those guys. But
that's the strength of the team, though. And you notice it from the first snap is like in the Green Bay game, the Vikings did the same thing at Green Bay earlier in the year where I think we were up 28-0 at the half. You just punch them in the mouth. Like the freaking Lions offensive line from the moment that game started was pushing the defensive line of the Packers back every run to quote unquote, what do they call them? Sonic and Knuckles. You know, it's just like you go Montgomery for 4, Montgomery for 6, Gibbs for 17, Montgomery for 8. You're like, this game's over in the first quarter.
Yeah, and it's everywhere. I mean, the only negative thing you could probably say about them, or not just about that, but just like, I mean, the James Williams might just be a miss. I mean, if he's just gonna never be available for X amount of
gambling,
reasons.
Gun charges, steroid suspension.
Like, just, I mean, and when he's been in there, he hasn't been maybe as effective as they hoped. But other than that, I mean, hey, you win some, you lose some draft picks. They've hit on most of them. And, they're really good. I mean, them on a neutral side against anyone, especially, and hey, the Super Bowl this year is played in the Dome. I mean, the only thing that keeps them from the 1 seed is going to be them playing a first place schedule. I mean, I know they still got to come here, but again, I don't think they're afraid of that.
They got games at Houston, at San Francisco. They got the Vikings again, Packers again. They got some tough stuff there, but I just can't see a scenario where they're not at least like 13-4, especially after that game yesterday. They just bossed them around. Dolphins shit the bed yet again. They're at 2-6. I think they might be toast. Tua has come back, and made them instantly back into the Dolphins again. They put up 27 points in back-to-back games after putting up like 3 points a game without him. But that defense just can't get it done, and they lose again. I thought they probably should have won that game. 61-yarder to beat them at the end in the driving rain. That was pretty crazy. Buffalo a little bit lucky there, but man, they're 6-2, and they got to feel like this is yet another great chance to win the Super Bowl. I want to talk about the Cowboys. I was kind of surprised they didn't fire McCarthy yesterday, just to give some kind of a indication to the players that there's going to be some kind of a change. Obviously, the consideration here is that Dak is probably out multiple weeks, and they didn't want to just shuffle everything like that. Quarterback gone, head coach gone, whatever. But I personally think they're in line for a 6-11, 5-12 type season, and it's going to be a full blow up with like maybe even Jerry Jones takes a back seat and lets his kid run the team, because right now, from his weekly press interviews to Dak's post-game press conference to Mike McCarthy's reactions on the sidelines to every play, I feel like that's one of the worst teams in the NFL.
Well, a couple things. I want to hit on the Dolphins just in a sense of like it's wild to me because the Dolphins with Tua, you're just like, good team, but like, where are they really going? Big picture. To go, Tua gets hurt, and they're like unwatchable, like just a joke, like can't move the ball. And then he comes back, and you're like, again, now we're back. It's just like, I don't know, it's crazy because what Tua is thought of, like why he's worth the money he's worth. Well, because he's better than like you could go from me to like no one watches your games to like still I'm back, you're still not going. It's just a weird thing to think about with like the quarterback value. I don't know. It's just it's like wild to me. But anyways, Dallas is the only team that can rival the Jets for I don't know, disappointment and just dysfunction. I'm not surprised Dallas is where they are because I just don't think they're very good. I mean, Dak without great players around him is average. Maybe I'll give him above a little bit. I mean, he's decent, but like he's not lifting this team right now. They have no running game. Zeke, who's supposed to be this great locker team guy, gets sent. He's not even on the trip.
Yeah.
Like I really
Yeah, I
backed
forgot to
Jerry
mention
Jones.
that. It's just like on top of all that, your supposed team leader misses the game for disciplinary reasons because he was late for practices.
Yeah, but I backed Jerry Jones in the offseason when all these TV shows were just like, you say you want to, like, you got to spend. And I was like, maybe he does realize, like, this team is not going anywhere. I'm about to do a reset. Like, I'm not going to fire McCarthy, hire Belichick. I'm not going to extend Dak. I'm not going to give CeeDee Lamb this humongous contract.
Mm-hmm.
But then he does. And I'm like, what was the point? Like, now, like, you could have just let Dak. There was nothing they could do with Dak with his contract. He had the clause in there say he can't franchise. Let him. I guarantee you the Dallas Cowboys would be better off in the future with not paying him over paying him $60+ million.
Mm-hmm. And everyone saw it.
Like,
it's not like this is some surprise to people.
So that doesn't make any sense. CeeDee Lamb, I guess I get no matter like what. I mean, he's a really good player. That's fine. The next one's going to be Micah Parsons, and I do not expect him to be a Dallas Cowboy. I would expect.
There's just no. I mean, you can't pay 3 players, $100
and go nowhere.
Million. Yeah,
it's going to make everything harder.
Yeah,
and
they're going to have.
He would have value.
Yeah,
he would have value. So I don't know. I honestly don't know what other teams think of. I don't know. What do you think you'd get? You think Dallas will get 2
ones? Yeah,
you do.
I mean, I think that's where it starts. I mean,
starts at 2 ones.
Oh, I mean, when you watch him play, you're like, okay. I mean, what would TJ Watt get on the open market? What would Chris Jones get?
TJ Watt's a better player.
I agree, but I mean, it's close. He's what?
I don't
6
think
years younger than TJ Watt.
I don't think it's that close.
Hmm.
I mean,
he's one of those guys like you used to say with Aaron Donald, where he's in the backfield on every play, but sometimes like the play has already passed him by. Like, he's an unbelievable player with unbelievable tools. But yeah, there are games where you're like, wait a minute, what is he doing?
Even to defend, like Aaron Donald had. I thought the Niners had a lot of success. For whatever reason, had a lot of success against him. But other games, teams could not block him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Micah Parsons' numbers in the second half of seasons and in the playoffs is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, his numbers go way down. I don't know if he gets – I don't know what it is. I mean, he's a really good player. He's going to go at least for – I don't know.
But the overall point is Dallas is going nowhere, and really the only way you can turn this around now that you've locked yourself in to Dak and CeeDee is fire the coach, tell Jerry Jones to take a step back, trade your star defensive player.
Everyone's available.
Complete reboot, That's the only way forward.
Trade Diggs. I don't know what you get for him, but like everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it needs to. It needs a nuke. Really,
absolutely. It's just a total disaster. And Dallas is lost. Yeah. Dallas is lost. I mean, it's
not going to be McCarthy.
Right. And it's not going to be Belichick, and they got to go young and like actually try something there.
Would Ben Johnson want that job?
No, I don't think so.
No,
I think because there's a reason it's been Mike McCarthy and Jason Garrett and Wade Phillips and Bill Parcells and Jimmy Johnson.
Jerry doesn't want to have to like.
It's always an older person,
Jerry wants control, and these young would Sean McVay if Jerry offered Sean McVay $35 million a year, would he do it?
No, not a chance. No. It maybe if Jerry Jones died, sure, he'd be like, oh,
well, yeah. I mean, that's the point. Like,
yeah.
Because I think even his kids are a little different.
Yeah.
Like the weekly press conferences, what are we doing?
And the whole thing of the owner being the GM, that worked in the Al Davis era. It's been 40 years since you could do that.
But the thing I will say is I don't know who's actually running the team when it comes to this, but I thought they've drafted well. Like they've had a good roster. Like he's not an awful GM. It's just the other stuff. Like, it came out that the players are like, we don't want to be zoo animals with these tours coming down.
Yeah.
And he's like, shut the hell up. We're running these tours.
Yeah.
Like, are you about winning or are you not? Like if someone, if any other team, their players came to the owner and said, hey, this simple fix, we'd like to do it. What are your thoughts? Maybe the owner would eventually get to the point, you know what? Guess what? I own the team. You don't have a say. But I feel like most of them would at least entertain it, and most of them would probably listen to them.
Yeah. Not Jerry.
And just every game, I don't know, I should be weird to me, like Jed York doing a press conference every week.
Very bizarre. And another thing he did is he fired his defensive coordinator and replaced him with Mike Zimmer. His defensive coordinator, I don't know if you remember this, was Dan Quinn, who is now 7-2 and the number 2 seed in the NFC. Commanders roll again. I think they might be the second best team in the NFC because it's not Philly as much as people want it to be. They should have lost that game against the Jags yesterday. I don't know what Sirianni was doing in the fourth quarter. I don't think it's the Vikings. I don't think it's the Packers. I'm like, who could it be? Who's the second best team in the NFC? Is it still the Niners? I don't think you would say it is. It's got to be Washington, right? I mean, Dan Quinn has.
Right now, it's definitely Washington.
Everybody wants to play for them. There's all these reports
if the
about.
Niners were healthy and playing well, did they have a shot? Yeah, but still, I got to see it. I don't see it right now. Washington is definitely the.
Washington is just the eye test of all eye tests. Oh my God! Every time I watch him, I'm like, Jaden Daniels has it.
Shoot, after I don't know. I was going to say shoot after that. Is it Arizona? But they went to Green Bay and got hammered.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider them there, and I especially after watching the Packers, I wouldn't consider them. It's crazy. I mean, I would put the Vikings above the Eagles and the Packers, but I don't know if I'd put them ahead of Washington. Jaden Daniels has been awesome. That defense has all of a sudden gone from, I think before the season, most people pegged them at 32, 31, or 30 in their power rankings for defense, and they're playing average, and the offense is like number 3, number 2 in the league in most categories. So good on Washington. I don't know how much higher the ceiling can get, but right now, I mean, Super Bowl isn't the craziest thing I've ever heard, which is insane to say about a team that had an over-under of 6 wins before the year. So pretty unbelievable. Cardinals, mentioned it, sneaky good. You called it before the season. You had them going 8-9 when I thought they were going to struggle much more than that. Kyler looks good. He's third in the league in QBR. Defense has been getting better. They were obviously a very weak link at the beginning of the year. Big win over Chicago. Caleb Williams was awful in that game and got just crushed. Eberflus going to be a key member of the Jack in the Bum of the Week candidates coming up for leaving Williams in after that game was decided and him just getting killed play after play. One note I want to talk about before we get to the Week 10 preview, because we're not going to preview this game. Giants versus Panthers in Munich at 6:30 a.m. Pacific next weekend. We're not going to talk about that game, but I just wanted to say that's the worst thing that America has done to Germany since 1945. I couldn't believe when I saw that was the Munich game. Probably the worst game of the entire NFL season. So have fun, Germany. Let's go over to the Week 10 preview. We'll start with the Niners. You got the Bucs. You just saw them on Monday Night Football. You're going to Florida off the bye. Believe it or not, you're favored by 6.5 in this game. I was a little surprised when I saw that. I thought it would be like 4, maybe 3 even. It's a sneaky, tough game, as we saw Tampa Bay veterans.
It shouldn't be sneaky tough.
Right.
It should be just a tough game.
Yeah.
Why? They should not sneak up on them. Yeah.
So what do you have to see? Personally, I mean, especially if McCaffrey is back, which all indications are. I mean, Schefter had a report earlier today that it looks like he is going to be a go. You got to come out guns a-blazing in the first quarter off the bye. You have to see that. If you don't, you're
short week for Tampa too. Long, I mean, not long, but I mean, overtime game tonight. I mean, we'll see, throws them off, but it's also the Niners going cross country. I think this is a 10 a.m. game too. It's not leaving like a 1:25.
Mm-hmm.
No, I you know the Hard Knocks with the Raiders when Gruden was like giving the speech and he's like, I want better fucking execution. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. Knock on wood if you're with me. I need better execution everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, offensively, like, let's just go forward. Stop. You don't need negative plays, penalties, all this stuff. Defense, I'd like to see our pass rush be more consistent. I'd like to see
Tampa has no wide receivers.
Yeah, I'd like to see us cover better.
Yeah.
Who knows if Trevor Ward plays? Terribly tragic what happened with him and his daughter. I don't know if he plays. If he doesn't, all power to him. Take whatever time you need. I heard that, honestly, hearing his daughter having a 15-month-old, that stings. Yeah, so who knows if he plays, but with their receivers they have. But I mean, again, today they looked really good against a really good defense.
Yeah.
So
Baker throwing it to Cade Otton and Sterling Shepard, and they still almost pulled it out in Arrowhead. Really impressive.
But yeah, better everything.
It's got to be one of those typical Kyle first drives of the game. 11 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. You got to.
One thing I saw today too is I saw like the seat map. They say like how many fans are going to be each. They said right now it looks like Niner fans are going to have 60% of the stadium
in Tampa,
which is wild to me. Yeah. I mean, like that's not even near here, and like
Niner fans have gone from a good fan base to maybe only behind Pittsburgh at this point in traveling. Like it really is unbelievable. Vikes are going to the Jags. Hey, we're both going to be down in Florida. Hopefully, we both come out of there with a W.
Yeah, well, I wonder, there's not like a hurricane coming?
Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, is there going to be like, weather that affects both of our games?
Looks like Hurricane Brock.
Hurricane Brock and Hurricane Hawk. TJ Hawkinson's back. We should at least score points in that game. The Jags are 2-7. Yes, because Trevor Lawrence is bad and Doug Peterson's a bad head coach, but mostly because their defense is just atrocious. I expect us to put up points. Only question is, can we stop Jacksonville's offense, which, again, Trevor Lawrence is the frickin' middest of the mid.
He's stealing money. I honestly don't want to admit how much thought I put into him and his contract and how it happened and how we got here. Because I'm just like, I'm grinding every day, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, making what I make, which ain't, let me tell you, the breaking news ain't sniffing anything like that.
You're not pulling down $55 million a year?
No. No, if I did, you wouldn't be seeing me. I'd be like owning an island by myself. It's wild. It's wild.
And after what we did to Flacco this week, I'm like, same game plan, do it.
And honestly, like in the same state, it just hit me. Like, what was Baker Mayfield make? 33?
Yeah. And last year he made like, what, 6 or 8?
Highway robbery.
Absolutely.
Criminal activity.
I expect us to win that game.
Hey,
before the season.
Money. Somebody to sign those checks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Been me.
Did we ever consider that his hair may have played a significant part of him getting that contract? If the dude had a shaved head,
absolutely looks the part.
Yeah.
Height, weight, everything.
Just not the football part. We got to put him on his back that whole game, especially when you send like 0 blitzes on him. The dude doesn't know what to do.
Cam Robinson revenge game.
Cam Robinson revenge game, baby. Been in Minnesota for 1 week. He's going to want to take it to him. No, I think we'll have some success in that one. A couple of the marquee games next week. Thursday Night Football is a good one. Cincinnati at Baltimore. I think Baltimore is the second best team in the AFC. A lot of people will say Buffalo. Not a lot of people are going to say Houston after that hideous performance last week. I think Baltimore's just firing on all cylinders right now. Derrick Henry looks like maybe the best acquisition of the offseason. Like, he is back to what he was when he almost won the MVP with Tennessee. Like, he is an absolute freight train on every carry. Really impressive. I think Baltimore wins this one, but that's a good one because all of a sudden, with all of these injuries, with the Jets being ineffective, with obviously I think Denver is not for real and they're going to come back to earth. There are a couple playoff spots up for grabs in the AFC for these crap teams, and Cincinnati's only 4-5. They can still get there. This could be another kitchen sink game for Burrow. They set the over-under in that game at 53.
He had 5 touchdowns this week too, I think.
Yeah, Burrow sneakily 25 touchdowns. He's on pace for 50. He looks great. MVP level play. It's just that Lou Anarumo defense is a disaster. I think that game's got like 34-31 written all over it.
Ravens defense, pass defense is terrible, which I feel like I've never said in my life.
Yeah, and even Kyle Hamilton dropped another pick in that game after dropping the one from Jameis. Pretty tough.
But I agree. Ravens, they're really good. I think it's a collision course for.
And when I saw in the Monday night game, when I saw Mahomes get hurt, I was like, Ravens and Bills fans are like, it's finally our year. And then, of course, he didn't miss a play.
Honestly, though, if I was them, and you get, I feel like you can kind of tell this like with the Dodgers winning the World Series, how like they knew like the COVID thing, like COVID championship, not real.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, okay, now we went from 0 championships to 2. Like we get to count that one now because we also won this one.
Right.
I feel like if Mahomes were to get hurt and like Lamar wins one, and they're like, well, like, dude, I feel like he'd have to hear the rest of his career like, yeah, but
yeah, I don't know.
And like that's no fun.
No. But everybody was thinking it when it happened. You're all of a sudden you're like,
right. You said it. This happens every year. It's wild. Like, oh, he's and then you're
like, said once or twice a year, there's Mahomes goes down, he gets helped to the sideline, he's walking gingerly. You're like, it finally happened, and then he doesn't miss a play, and you're like, cool. Like, God loves this guy apparently.
Be like, wish that happened to like Ayuk or McCaffrey or somebody, but
nope. When they go down because that's just how the NFL works. As script writers didn't have it in there.
Script writers, wrote something and erased it. That's what happened with.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, oops, whiteout.
Yep. Leave Mahomes in there. Pittsburgh at Washington, a game that before the season nobody would have said is a marquee game, but that's 6-2 at 7-2. Washington favored by 2.5. I am going to be all over that in the picks of the week. I think this is going to be a great game. This is kind of one for me where we can see, is this Russ resurgence and this Tomlin coach team for real, or is it yet another Mike Tomlin special where they go, 9-8, 10-7 and lose in the first round? Like if they go into Washington, shut down that Washington defense off the bye, that would be very impressive to me. So I'm excited for that one. And then my eyes are going to be all over the Sunday night game, Detroit at Houston. Houston was awful on Thursday Night Football against the Jets. I really need a Houston bounce back here to get the Vikings back in the catbird seat in the NFC North, but I don't really see that happening. What do you think about that Sunday night game after watching how bad Houston was last week?
I think the Texans been incredibly disappointing. I got them going to the AFC Championship game, and I was like, I don't. I mean, they don't look anything like they did last year. Offensively, it looks. I know they've had injuries. The Diggs injury doesn't help. But I thought adding Joe Mixon, it just doesn't.
It's a possibility Nico Collins comes back for this one, and he is an absolute beast. But it just doesn't feel right. Yeah, I agree. The first thing I saw when I saw that game was
there's not many teams I think, oh, so and so is playing Detroit, and I don't just want to say I think Detroit hammers them.
Absolutely. And before the year, I looked at the schedule and I was like, okay, Detroit loss in that game. That's a spot where they're going to lose. Hell no. Like, they're significantly better than
What's the line?
Detroit -3. And that's going to be for certain in our picks of the week. Joey, it's time for America's favorite segment, the Jack and the Bum of the Week. I just want to point out off the top, you were sick last week. We would have given it to Tyreek Stevenson.
Although Anthony Richardson made a heck of a run at it.
He sure did.
I mean, on any other week.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, part of me, I think I might have given it to him because the Tyreek, it's one thing to be that. I mean, it was dumb, which honestly, the dumbest thing was to like running in there and just volleyballing it up to the guy you were apparently supposed to be covering.
Yeah.
Which saying that makes me think he should be the bum. But the Anthony Richardson thing, to play as poorly as you do, and then to like on third down, just say I quit, is wild.
So I never ever watch the Fox pregame show anymore. I just go straight to Red Zone and watch that at 10 o'clock. But I was on a flight back from Boston yesterday, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna watch the Fox pregame. That's all they have on the seatback TV. So I'm like, okay. Terry Bradshaw, who is very dementia-addled at this point and should not be on TV, did make one really good point. He said, you've never seen Lamar Jackson ask for a playoff. You've never seen Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, any of these guys.
You never saw Nathan Peterman ask for a timeout.
And he goes, he will learn from this, and it's not like a death sentence, but as far as endearing yourself to your teammates.
I mean, honestly.
I think the point he was making is he now has to basically sit the season behind Flacco, not because of, he went 10 for 24 again.
I thought I heard them say today, Flacco starting the rest of the year.
Yeah, because I mean, he completely lost the locker room after that, and Bradshaw's basically like he will get a chance at some point, probably next year, to bring the locker room back. But that whole thing, tapping the helmet and being, I need to sit a play out. You're the general.
Honestly, the helmet tap makes it so much worse.
Yeah,
because like if you just say you're like maybe.
Or he should have he should have lied. He should have just been like, I thought I'd.
That's the crazy thing is he didn't even think it was like smart to lie.
Yeah. He was like, man, I was just winded. I needed to play off. I was like,
and then someone said too, I saw he was the same guy that said college is harder than the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Well, the NFL's proven to be pretty hard for him when he's completely.
And like he needs reps. His career, he's barely played in college.
Yeah.
I mean, like honestly, like career suicide.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be he cannot be the franchise quarterback for the Colts. I think
he's got Trey Lance written all over him, man. I
made that comparison, but I was like, this guy at least played in the SEC. And speaking of Trey Lance, one thing I did notice, it's like this stuff does matter. Why Trey Lance hasn't? Honestly, that's good comp because it might have a better shot than Anthony Richardson. As I saw after the Dallas Niners game, like someone put a video, one of like these Niner fan blog people, like how many Niners players and staff went to see him.
Mm-hmm.
Like they clearly thought this guy couldn't play at the time, but like it's one thing to think you can't play and think this guy's a freaking bum. Like
they loved him. Yeah.
Like so, Anthony Richardson is a bum. Like like everyone in that team. I mean, I think I saw like that Damian Woody. That's his on first take. I think he was. He's like as offensive lineman. He's like you say. He's like, do you think I was tired blocking like Aaron Donald or like? I got to block for you.
Yeah. I saw that clip. He goes, do you think I asked for a playoff when I was facing Reggie White?
Yeah.
No. You're like, come on.
Like, and why are you tired? I mean, I would be tired.
Yeah.
Why are you tired? I'm like, dude, you look 6'5", jacked. Like, why are you not in shape?
Pretty unbelievable. It's 8 career games, and he has the gall to do that.
Yeah, but of the week I had to be because there's 2. I mean, honestly, it could be both in the mountains.
2 of the biggest ones of the year. The only one I can remember in Jack and the Bum history that was maybe more egregious was the Jacoby Myers fumble throw. One guy causes a loss. Also, Joseph Osai from
the AFC
championship. There's a couple guys every year that just have one of those massive bonehead plays, and Tyreek's
have 2 in the same week.
Really unbelievable. But for this week, for week 9, here are my candidates. Derek Carr. Not only did he throw a hospital ball that may have ended Chris Olave's season with his 5th concussion of his NFL career, not only did he lose to Bryce Young and just not play well generally, he got absolutely cooked by Michael Thomas on Twitter as all of this was happening, and then just responded to it, obliquely. Like, I mean, I think that's it for Derek Carr in the NFL as a starter. He now has lost to 31 NFL teams, which is the all-time record. The only team he hasn't lost to is the Raiders, and they play each other in a few weeks. So Derek Carr, I mean, this is the end of the line for him. I saw this stat today that shows the most losses by age 23, by age 24, by age whatever. And it goes David Carr, David Carr, David Carr, Derek Carr, Derek Carr, Derek Carr, Derek Carr. Like, the poor Carr family, they're good enough to play in the NFL, but not good enough to win. Mike McCarthy has to be on there. If I'm a Cowboy fan, I hate Jerry Jones. I hate the way that this team has been run, but nothing inspires less confidence than seeing like a controversial call or a play that doesn't go their way, and they pan over to McCarthy with his giant turkey neck, just going like, huh? What? Like, every time I look at that, I'm like, if that was my coach, I would just throw my TV out the window. I'm so tired of that guy. His days are numbered as an NFL coach. Geno Smith has to be on here. Sorry, Seahawks fans. Sorry, Evan. I mean, he was awful. Two of the worst red zone picks I've ever seen, including a pick 6. Seahawks should have won that game by a touchdown, maybe 2. He basically just threw away the game with some careless throws there. That was the game that I think we might look back at and say that was, the impetus of, the Seahawks moving on from him after this season and starting a rookie next year. Because, I mean, any competent quarterback wouldn't have thrown those 2 red zone picks.
They're too good to be like picking high.
Yeah, I don't know where they're going to find another quarterback, but Geno ain't it. Like, he's good enough to maybe get you to
He's
like
honestly a lot more talented than I thought he was.
It's true.
Physically. Physically, he's very gifted.
They made the playoffs in 2022 with him at 9-8, and then last year they took a little bit of a step back, got rid of Carroll. This year, I just see it again. It's like his ceiling is 9-8, 8-9. It's just not good enough. And I mean, he lost them that game almost single-handedly in the fourth quarter. And then my personal vote for this one would have been Todd Bowles. You have a woefully undermanned football team without your top 2 receivers, without your best offensive lineman, without your best defensive player. You go into Arrowhead, and with 31 seconds left, you get down to the 1-yard line and you take a timeout when your opponent has 3 timeouts. Completely disagree with that. Should have let the clock run down so that Kansas City doesn't get the chance to possess the ball again. And then if you score, you go for 2. Like, you are by far the worst team in this matchup, and you're on the road. You go for 2 to try to pull out a win there. He kicked the field goal. He left time on the clock. Luckily, he got away with it, and they didn't score, and the game went to overtime. And then, of course, Mahomes just marches right down the field with an easy drive touchdown on the first one. So I just thought that was a situational coaching disaster class from Todd Bowles at the end of that one. But there's a different coach that's going to win the award this week, one that we have been shitting on this podcast for many years.
Yeah, as always, good candidates. Not the Hall of Fame week we had last week with those 2, but my bum of the week is Matt Eberflus, because last week's Hail Mary was bad. And honestly, you could argue even the play before it was just as bad, like the 10, 15-yard out route that no one covered to set him up for the Hail Mary. But to be this uninspired offensively and defensively, he even said it, like, to give up, what was it, like a 50-something yard touchdown run at the end of the first half, that he basically said, I called the worst play you could possibly call there. Offensively, Caleb Williams doesn't look any better than he did earlier in the season. And then probably the biggest reason why he's on here is, like, he benched Stevenson, but then played him, like, only after a couple series. Like, it was almost like a high school, like you got a bad grade on a class and you're
going to sit out the first quarter.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know this guy. I really don't. Maybe the Stevenson. I don't know is he a good? I don't know if he's a good player or not. I can't pretend to. I didn't know who he was until he did this. Why didn't you just cut him, or like tell him to stay home? Like that can't happen.
Yeah, like the Packers did with Dobbs earlier in the season. Just inactive, disciplinary, whatever. Just do that if you really wanted to make a statement.
Like, it's not even like a statement. It is a statement, but like, it really is like, no, this is unacceptable. Even like Dallas, I know we talked about how poorly run I think they are. It says Zeke, stay home. Like, you're not. Or even like I've heard this with Andy Reid. Like, people said Andy Reid's a really nice guy. He never swears, like all this stuff. But he's like, trust me, like if you don't play to the standard or you're not where you're supposed to be, you're not like focused 24/7 on football. Like, you'll know about it. And you never hear this stuff with Kansas City. I don't know why he wasn't cut. Honestly.
Yeah.
I want to look him up because now I'm like curious.
And all sorts of reports coming out that there was consideration towards firing Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator. There's all sorts of strife in the locker room with players turning on Eberflus. It's all going to hell in a handbasket.
Okay, so he's actually like probably a player. He was a second rounder last year. Okay, so like he's not just like a bum. Okay. But like the other thing is I read too, like they told him we're gonna bench you like for a bit, like Wednesday, and he said I can't practice. He's like, I need some time.
What kind of when we called this out with the offseason hard knocks, What kind of an organization is he running over there?
I don't know. It's like a layup to me. I don't. I mean, like he seems like actually a pretty decent player. So maybe he did get some leeway.
But even so, I mean, this is a team basically. I mean, if you watched the game yesterday, they lost 29-9. Roma Donze was a good player yesterday. I think almost every other player on the field was awful in that game. And the worst part of the whole thing was the final maybe 8 minutes of that game after it was decided. There was no reason to have Caleb Williams in that game, especially after seeing how bad that offensive line is. He took 5 or 6 of the just most gigantic shots at the end of that game, to the point where even Ian Eagle, who was calling the game, said it really is shocking that Eberflus is leaving Williams in here unless he's sending a message to his quarterback. And I was like, damn, like for the play-by-play announcer to call that shit out, it's egregious.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I could see if like some people thinking some of these sacks are like on him, like Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes when I've watched him, he thinks he's Patrick Mahomes and spin around, and he gets tackled. It's like, oh God, this isn't like UCLA. This is the Arizona Cardinals.
Really unbelievable. He's not been put in a position to succeed, but I also think
Eberflus is not going to be coaching next season.
He will not. And this is supposedly a defensive coach, and that defense has done nothing but go backwards in the last few weeks. Getting torched by Washington. Granted, there was a Hail Mary in there, but then Kyler Murray looked really good against them as well. So Matt Eberflus, Jack in the Bum of the Week, another listless performance from the Bears. Let's quickly run through the You Like That picks of the week. We're 24-20-1 on the season. We went 3-2 last week. We won with Washington, Arizona, and Tampa Bay, and lost with Cleveland and Houston. We got 5 more picks for you this week, trying to get another winning week. We've slowly been chugging along. We started off slow weeks 1 through 4. We've had 5 straight weeks of positive return on investment, and we're going to keep going for it here. Washington -2.5 versus Pittsburgh. Jaden Daniels is rolling, and the players are 100% behind Dan Quinn. It's a feel-good story. We're riding with it. I can't believe it's only 2.5 at home there. Give me Washington. Tampa Bay +6.5 at home against the Niners. Niners should not be laying a TD on the road against a 500 team. I think that's a little too much. I think the Niners win, but maybe by 4, maybe by 6. I just think 6.5 is too much. Buffalo -4 at Indy. Flacco, I thought he looked awful. He looked every bit of his 39, 40 years old in that game. Only scored 3 points against the Vikings. He's facing Buffalo this week. I really think Buffalo should separate in that game, especially with how Steichen, I just think his offense has gotten stagnant no matter who the quarterback is. They've just looked really bad on offense this year, and a couple of their wins were total flukes. I think the Bills keep rolling there. Arizona, they're a pick'em at home against the Jets. I thought they should be -3, maybe -3.5. I can't believe that's pick'em. I don't know who's betting the Jets, but somebody is. Give me Arizona again. Jets should not be 3-point, or they should be 3-point dogs on the road against everybody. So give me Arizona. And then Joey, you and I love this one. Detroit -3 at Houston. Houston, we have a problem. You're awful on TNF. You're going to get absolutely smoked by Dan Campbell on Sunday Night Football. So there's the You Like That picks of the week. Washington -2.5 against Pittsburgh. Tampa Bay +6.5 against the Niners. Buffalo -4 at Indy. Arizona pick'em against the Jets, and Detroit -3 on Sunday Night Football against Houston. Joey, it's time for your Feels Great Baby, your wildest take you feel best about currently, and we're sticking with the Lions.
Yeah, I think they win the Super Bowl. I think the Detroit Lions, clearly the best team in football, and I have no reason to think they're not going to be the 1 seed. And that Detroit building with 2 home games and a trip to another dome, it's going to be really tough. It'll be really tough to beat them. And yeah,
you need to some sort of Detroit curse is the only thing that can stop that wagon right now.
I don't know. Partially, I mean, yeah, no, they're toast. I mean, not toast. They're not like the chances of them not. It's just It's crazy.
Don't you feel like they make a splash tomorrow too? I feel like they pushed
Well,
the
if I
chips.
was them, if you want to put all your chips on the table, you say, what's the price for Max Crosby?
I kind of feel it coming. I feel like they're going to make a big move tomorrow too.
But then again, if I was advising them, why? Like keep your picks, keep drafting, keep doing all that. Like Aiden Hutchinson is going to be back next year. I mean, granted, like, yeah, would it help this year? But maybe for this year, they do something like for not as big, like, because Max Crosby's going to cost.
Yeah.
At least a 1 and a 2, probably 2 1s and more. Yeah. No.
Got them winning it all. And right now, if you had to, I mean, before the season, you like Detroit a ton. Would you go Detroit, Kansas City, or Detroit, Baltimore?
Kansas City.
Yeah, I
mean, they shouldn't be. Baltimore's better,
yeah.
I think. It shouldn't, but I'm not making that mistake.
Especially, I mean, Kansas City's 8-0. Baltimore's got 3 losses. I just don't see it. I agree. Detroit, Kansas City right now. I would be mildly surprised if it was any other outcome at this point. It totally makes sense. The more watch.
If you play Detroit and keep them under 40 in a dome, that feels.
Last 5 weeks or last 6 weeks, they have more offensive touchdowns than passing incompletions.
That's wild.
They're the best team in the league. Goff should be the second MVP favorite right now behind Lamar. Might pass him up if he keeps playing like this. Makes total sense. Detroit's the best team in the NFL. Let's try to keep this pod under an hour. Let's close the pod. I just wanted to talk about I've had a few sports experiences recently. I went to SoFi Stadium for the Vikings game. It's right across the street from the new Intuit Dome, which is the Clippers arena. Saw a bunch of stories on the news about that arena. Saw this whole tour where Steve Ballmer, the owner of the Clippers, walks everybody through the venue and explains like his thought process behind all the stuff in this arena. Sports, more so than a lot of things in American life, needs a full reset, man. This is getting just completely out of hand. Everything's got to be cheaper. Stadiums need to be cheaper. It just needs to be some seats, some bathrooms, and some freaking, scoreboards. Like, what else do we need? Tickets need to be cheaper. Concessions need to be cheaper. Parking, player salaries, TV contracts. It's freaking out of control. And then you look at some of these NBA contracts I've seen recently. You got third guy off the bench making $25 million a year. And the tickets for an irrelevant November NBA game are $150, $200 each. Like, this shit is just getting insane. Basically the things that brought this on were, I went to SoFi. I sat a few rows from the field on the Vikings sideline. I spent good money to do it, but I left the stadium being like, man, like if I was to go with a family of 4, even if you sit in the nosebleeds, you're talking $800 to $1,000. Yeah, it's just insane. And imagine paying something like that for like a December game between the Grizzlies and Hornets. Like, I mean, what are we doing, man? It's just a joke. Well, and then the whole Intuit Dome, I just want to run this by you. So basically, Ballmer was trying to paint this as, I did this as a forward-thinking owner who loves his fans and wants to build something. So he goes, we've made extra bathrooms so there will never be a line for the bathroom so people get right back to their seat. We de-emphasized food. The food is okay, but it's not great because we don't want you to be just like lounging around eating food. We want you to be in your seat watching the game. We put phone chargers in every seat. We put listening devices in every seat so that the loudest fans get the most chances to win prizes. And sometimes we send you a seat upgrade, and sometimes we send you free food if you're one of the loudest fans. Do you think that the CEO of Microsoft is not going to use that listening device to listen to your conversations and send you targeted advertising? Like, this shit is just so.
Well, guess what? Let me break it down for you. They already do. So yeah, they already got us. As for your overall point, which is fascinating because I wish we could do this we do a whole podcast on this. There's 2 things I think about. Number one, people are admittedly fanatic. I'm a fan. I'm fanatical about the teams. It's beyond rationality. People are just way too invested in sports. I mean, honestly, I go outside, like learn how to fish, build something.
Touch grass.
Like You know, I mean, I think as I get older, it's like all this stuff, and just like I don't. Sometimes I am. I don't know. Maybe there are some days, especially when your teams are losing. What am I doing? Like, you know, and like paying what for how much?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but then the other thing I think about, and then I come back to, what else we got?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you watch some of like the baseball stuff, which I playoffs I thought were pretty good, or like big, like obviously every NFL game, but like playoffs, like where else do you get that electricity? I mean, maybe that's just from me, sports fan,
Mm-hmm.
but like I haven't been to the movies in forever, and no movie gets me to go there. And I don't want to spend that kind of money to go. And again, you pay all that money, which I've said before. You pay over if you're more family party of 3, 4, whatever kids we got.
Mm-hmm.
Like $1,000 at least. Food, souvenir, jersey.
Parking, $100.
Where do you go? You go to a Niner game. Say I don't know. Say the Green Bay Packers come in here and it's 35-10. You're like, wow. Like, I mean, I would cry thinking about it. It's not even happened yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'd spent all that money to go to the Vikings Rams game, and the freaking face mask happened right in front of my face. That was a missed call, and I'm thinking, why did I just do that? Luckily, there's a casino in the parking lot, and I drowned my sorrows by playing Pie Gal. But I digress.
Yeah, it just no. I don't know because like where else do you get this like because everything I mean just everything. I have less time than I've ever had in my life to watch sports and be a fan. Like honestly, it's hard to watch one football game a week. I try and with the Niners play. I'm like, that's the one that give you that time. Everything else, you got kid, work, family, everything. But then what it does is it makes that 3-hour time you have that like
electric. Yeah.
That, but also just like I look forward to it. It's like that's because every day you get older as an adult, and maybe if you have kids one day or what, like you like the kid in you dies every day. Like I'm not trying to sugarcoat it, and I
maybe that's why prices for everything
I'm
go
very
up.
happy
Is
with my
people
life.
are trying to buy like
I'm very happy with
again.
my life. I'm very blessed. But so many, I wish I could tell my 16, 17-year-old self, like, this is as good as it gets. Like, with this. Like, being a fan, right?
Right.
And so, like, the more you get older, more responsibilities. Oh, property taxes. The PG&E's outrageous. All this shit. Oh, your kid's sick. All this shit. It's just like, what do I look forward to? I look forward to 3 hours on Sunday. Maybe my team could win a football game. And you're just like, whew, like, gets me through the week.
Yeah.
You want that experience, and like I think people now more than ever, there's nowhere. Where else do you get that? If I was to ask somebody who wasn't a sports fan, where do you get this? Like, do people? As far as I know, I don't know anyone who goes to the movies. Do you go to the zoo? Like, what do you do? Like,
do you paint
time?
happy trees and some clouds?
But like, you have family time. I'm like, well, what do you do with your family? Like, my family watches games. What do you do? Like.
And I think that goes back to like why they're able to charge just astronomical sums is people are buying like the one thing that they can do with their free time that feels like, this is my thing. You know, it really is unbelievable, man. Like it's so over the top.
Saturday. So my parents were here this weekend, and like I don't see my parents as much as obviously I used to as a kid, but like, and again, this like. I get it. I'm different. I'm a big hockey fan. Not a whole lot of people, but like Saturday night, the Sharks played. I'm like, I get to watch a hockey game with my dad again. They lost, terrible fashion too. 5 seconds left, blew it. But like that, like those like 2.5 hours is like me as a kid. Like, and I think I've told you this. I think I've told you, but like, yeah, my dad is. I think about this every day. I went to his place in Nevada, and he showed we were just totally randomly nonchalantly in the garage. He said, yeah, that stick up there, I got that stick from like a Seals game back in the 60s. He's like, that's the only thing I got left from like my childhood, like being a hockey fan.
Yeah.
And like I tell him, I still think about that. I'm like, you're a huge fan. Like that sticks all you got.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, yeah, you just life happens. I'm like, this is super depressing. Because like I feel it. I feel it happening now. Like,
yeah.
I like football. Like I texted you, I just turned the game on. Like I no longer can like log off work 5:00. Just everyone shut the hell up. I'm watching a football game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
no, I got other shit to do. I get it.
and it's just,
and I think this is part of the reason why the people tolerate these teams just gouging you on everything, to the point where subscriptions for the cable channel to watch your team, or the Sunday ticket or league pass or whatever the hell it may be, everything is now in the hundreds and thousands of dollars to be a sports fan, a big time sports fan. Whereas when we were kids, I mean, you could go to baseball games for $10. There was free parking for a lot of this stuff. Food was cheap. Now you're talking, everything related to being a sports fan, because it's such a unique experience. Capitalism basically says the demand is at an all-time high, so the price is going to just be through the roof, and it's just killing me.
It sucks, but like I blame the people. Like,
find something else to do, but we can't.
No, we can't. But I've noticed, like, too, like, even me, like, oh, my dad was here. I mentioned to him, right? Hey, you want to go to the game, Dad? Like, I've been to like one hockey game with him in like 5 or 6 years, which is unheard of, because we used to go to 10, 15 plus games a year. And he's like, not really. I don't want to go, because, we live out here, and if like, we're a long way from the tank. So he's like, you want to watch this team probably lose, and then drive at night in the dark, which neither one of us like to do, like an hour and a half back here on like one way dirt roads. I was like, yeah, you're probably right. And he's like, yeah, and then like parking's like $30-$35, and then like you start thinking about it, and he's like,
you and I used to go and bring a $5 footlong from Subway and park so far away for $6 to go to Sharks games, and now it's just a trek and nobody wants to do it.
Yeah, no.
It's insane how it changes. I just wish there could be a reset and we could just go back to sports. The problem is,
I don't know if there could be a reset with the TV contracts. Like, it's like the money's already
It's happening in baseball right now. I don't know if it happens with the sports where people actually give a shit. Like, I don't think it'll ever happen with the NFL. Like baseball, their TV rights are nosediving. I don't think it's going to happen with the NFL, but maybe one day that'll happen, and we'll get our sports back at a little bit more reasonable price.
Your team just has to suck.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. Yeah, if your team is just sucks balls, yeah, sure, it's cheap, it's fine.
But then you don't want to go.
Yeah, that's how it works. Capitalism, baby. All right, that's another episode of the You Like That Feels Great Baby podcast. Tomorrow's a big day in America. For those of you that don't know, it's the NFL trade deadline. Also,
fans in Pakistan or wherever they are, do they care?
Yeah, I don't know.
Still have those?
I don't know.
You don't know.
Macklin Celebrini, yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, we're talking about crowds. How many people show up? Like 500?
Yeah.
To see Columbus?
Yeah.
Tuesday night?
Election night.
God forbid there's like any sort of weather, which I don't expect there to be. But
lightly attended for that one.
I'll be here watching. Hopefully we get a big win. Go back to get win number 4.
Woo! And hopefully another.
Think about going Thursday.
Okay, you gotta see Celebrini. Have to see him in person.
Well, I'm going.
Yeah.
And Joe's night.
Nice. That's a must too.
I actually bought tickets for that when tickets were released like in June or July. Which, if you look at the Sharks tickets, every game is like midweek, $25-$30, even after fees. Saturday night games, like those, like people with work and stuff, like those go like no matter who they play. But the Joe night,
through the roof. Like,
it's like, we're back, baby. It's like the second round of the playoff tickets. I'm like, to go see Buffalo, but whatever.
Shows how much that they love that guy. Absolute legend.
It's a football podcast, Joey.
Yeah. Bay Area legend. Hopefully a different Bay Area legend has a good Tuesday. If you catch my drift, get out there and vote, people. That's another episode of the You Like That Feels Great Baby podcast. We'll see you next week.